Hey, good afternoon. I went early a little bit earlier than what I was supposed to. I'm sitting up here doing some of my research and thinking that and I clicked the wrong button because when I clicked the wrong button, it made me go early live. So I'm here now. I'm here, and as I sit here and I look at it, I want you to pay attention to what's behind my back and realize that Texas first. We got to take on a Texas first in campaign. We got to get everybody on the same page, and we got to know we got to share some information because see, one of the things that I'm beginning to realize, and one of the things that I understand is Texas is a diverse state. But here's what it's gonna take to get Gina Hinojosa to be the governor of Texas. And I know I don't have any of my stuff set up, so I'm just gonna pin this on and try to keep this noise down as much as possible. I'm gonna pin it on my chest, and hopefully you can hear me. I can see my sound going out. I gotta switch my air just a little bit downward so we can have the show. Okay, I'm here. I'm back. But see, one of the things that we have to make Greg Abbott own is his ability to allow people to come from the outside in and influence Texas politics. See, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, at no time should any outsider be able to come into Texas politics and dictate the terms in which Texas operates. Because we shouldn't allow that. I also remember this. When we came in, when you drove into Texas, it was a big old sign that said, "Don't mix with Texas." You can do whatever you want to, but don't mess with Texas. That means that we stand by what we say. We follow through with what we're saying. We. I'm not talking about the rich. I'm not talking about the well-to-do, the ones that don't need politics to survive. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the ones that's here every day in the state of Texas that's dealing with how Governor Abbott gives up his power to people that's not here. When Trump told him how high to jump, he jumped. And I know y'all saying, well, he can't do that. It's the mentality of a person. Sometimes you don't. It's the action of a person. When you're called out and you represent the state of Texas, you have to be able to say no. I'm not doing that. It doesn't work in my benefit. See, when ICE comes into our communities, and see, I'm gonna get to this, but when ICE comes into our communities and they threaten citizens or people that's been here for a while, and then you wonder how come we're at the position that we're at. You have to understand that's the outside influence. Abbott is allowing Trump to dictate terms in Texas, and it's not like Trump is doing an excellent job in DC, but when you allow somebody to dictate terms in your state, we live here too. We live here too, and if we don't get that understood first, it's something within us. See, sometimes it's not about blacks, it's not about whites, it's not about red, it's not about blue. It's about what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do and how to go about doing that. But if we don't have a plan, because I constantly see people out there, and what they're saying is, well, we got to do this. We got to do this in Texas. We got to get James Talarico in the Senate. At the same time, I see Texans talking about schools and everything else and talking about what we should improve within the state of Texas. Who should be able to tell that man sitting in Washington, D.C., no, we're not doing it. See, if you continue to allow the person in the office of governor to exist, if you continue to not say that he's not important, because he's making decisions every day. And I need you to understand that Texas First means that our schools and everything are under attack by his own personal feelings, his goals of giving to the rich and taking away from the poor. Do you know what happens when the schools start to fail in the state of Texas? When the free schools, the free stuff that we give to poor people start to fail. Vouchers are nice for some people, but for poor people that's barely making it, he's selling you on a story that you can go get your money. You can apply for these vouchers and put your kid in a better school. But what happens to the people at the bottom that just can't do it? Their demographics put them in a different area. You say that you support poor people. You say that you're about people getting ahead. You say that this is America. But everybody should be entitled to a free education and not have to go out of their way to get a better education. You should improve the education of people where they're at. And if you're not doing it, and you putting these little school czars in position saying that they're supposed to be doing a better job than what the people here could do, you're basically just destroying a public school system that has supplied America for years. Yeah, you can bring in those school czars if it's got to a point where you feel like you have to intervene, but if you bring them in, you need to have an end period. Because what you're doing on both ends is you're destroying the school system and you're destroying the ability for poor people to have a system that's in place within their neighborhoods. And when you take that away from the neighborhood, you're asking them to go somewhere else. And most people don't understand this. It's lobbyists that are doing this they don't have your best interests at heart when they go to these people that's in government. They don't have your best interests at heart. And you ask about a school system, a lunch system, a daycare system, and all the rest of this. They are talking about a smaller government where you don't have those things. So let's break this down. Let's kind of break this down. Because there's two things I need to break down in this show that I'm about to give you. This show right here. One, Governor Abbott follows rules outside of the state. Let's admit that one. Governor Abbott is against protecting his own citizens from ICE. He does that. He has yet to step up and say what happened in Houston was wrong. He basically is weaponizing the Texas Rangers to investigate the scene, and whatever it points back to him, he can clean it up because the Texas Ranger works for the governor. Whatever report comes out of there, can you truly feel like you trusted it? People are protesting, but just like you protesting what happened to the particular person, people are missing the narrative because that person was just trying to go to work that morning. And cars chasing him don't look like police cars, no lights, no sirens or nothing, just coming up around him, circulating him. You would have did the same thing. And it seems like the same story develops every time. If a person stops and they don't see who you are and they still try to get away, what they say is you're assaulting them with your vehicle. Here's why this matters. Now, I told you it was two topics I was going to bring up. A Texas First plan is not something, the name may be different, but I need to walk you through the process of this Texas First plan that was out there. People within the state of Texas had already got together and made up a plan. They had situated the plan. They had the top leaders, the top people with resources to turn the state by 2030. And you said, well, Ron, why does that date make a difference? Because it's a slower process, but the result was set in place. So the same thing that I'm asking you to do in Texas First can happen at a longer period, because you had to deal with Greg Abbott. And unless we deal with Greg Abbott, we can't do this. We don't get anything in return if we don't vote out Greg Abbott in the governor's office. So we can vote for James Tallarico. He could have the best resume and speaking to every language that you want to hear. But here's the question that you should be asking, and ask it fair. Mr. Tallarico, I realize that you're going to the Senate. You represent a lot of people. You basically got us here in the state of Texas. But what can you do for us as a people when you leave the state of Texas going to the Senate and we still dealing with this man named Greg Abbott here? See, those are questions that you need to ask, because if you understand how government works, you will realize that that's not the question to ask James Tallarico. He can comment, but he can't move it more forward than any of that. He can bring institutions into the state of Texas. He can go to Washington and represent Texas, but he can't do anything to move us forward. And that's the only thing that I'm trying to get you to understand on this Texas First plan, is that the only way that we get stuff changed in the state of Texas, move forward in a positive direction, is that we have to come together and pull together and know that the purpose, we're not giving up our vote. We're asking for something in return that should be automatically. Because if you're going to represent the state and you're going from place to place to place, and you know without a doubt that most of the changes that you can make will not affect the state of Texas, you need to own it. I don't care what people are telling you outside the state. Because if they're telling you this, if they're telling you that, hey, you know what? I need to get you in office so we have a plan. We have a plan. But in the state of Texas, need to have a plan for you to get there too. And that state plan includes Gina Hinojosa becoming governor. And so I need to make us understand what this does. See, James is a senator. He's going to Washington to fight a different battle. You're still here in the state of Texas dealing with whatever Greg Abbott puts out. And I already told you, he's taking his orders from Washington. He's making the state worse than what it was. He's redistricting maps here in the state of Texas because Trump asked him to. So you need to ask yourself, do I want a governor that takes orders from Washington, or do I want a governor that protects the state of Texas? And here's what I challenge you on. Now I'm going to challenge each and every one of y'all out there. I switch my position on voting for Tallarico, but I switch my position with a cause and effect. Because if Tallarico can help get Gina Hinojosa into the governorship of Texas, guess what happens? We all win. But if you just so dead set on putting one person in the Senate in Washington and think that makes it moves the needle here in Texas, it doesn't. That's the part that they don't want you to know. Now, let's get this on. Let's get through this so we can understand, so I can get back to the importance of Gina Hinojosa, because I told you Abbott's story, right? I done told you that, and I need you to understand something, because if you don't understand this part of the equation, you're missing out. You know, this plan of Texas First, the name I gave it, the decoration that you see behind it, I put it together because I need to be able to tell myself that I'm voting for something that's going to change the state, not just send somebody to Washington to fight on a different level where the national wins, but the state of Texas still suffers under the pain of Greg Abbott and Donald Trump. You might as well say Donald Trump too, because if Greg Abbott is his man that he can just say something to and it automatically happens, that should show you one thing in particular, that a governor can make stuff happen. A governor can turn down Trump in the next 2 years. The governor that we have in place right now, Abbott, is just, I'm going to try to keep from insulting him. He's just a mouthpiece for Trump. So if you want to live up under the Trump rule, go ahead. Keep Governor Abbott in place. Go ahead and figure out, don't figure out that the most important person in the state of Texas right now, and she's running a tight race, but she needs everybody. Let me put some numbers out there so you can understand. She needs 70% of the Hispanic vote. And some of y'all gonna stay home. Some of y'all ain't gonna get out and vote. I already know that. So she needs 70% of the Hispanic vote to make a difference. Guess how much of the black vote she needs? She needs almost 90% of the black vote to turn out. And that's not all of it. She's gonna need some people from the other side to realize. And that's what you should be telling people when they start talking to you about what Greg Abbott and the Republican Party say. Are we the Republican Party in the state of Texas, or do we work for Donald Trump? That's what you should be asking people that's wearing red. Because if they wearing that red mega hat, they working for Donald Trump, and your governor might as well put on a red hat and work for Donald Trump too. And if you give him your vote, what you're basically saying is, Texas can't change. We have the greatest opportunity within the next 90 days to change Texas from red to blue. Until you realize that, and it's going to take a combined effort. I know my people, my color, want something too. In order to get to a point where people will listen, because Greg Abbott is not listening, we need to come on the same page. All right, and I'm going to tell you the reason why we need to come on the same page, because if we're going to change Texas to blue, not purple, we need to come on the same page, because even my people need to understand that having Greg Abbott in that office is a detriment to everybody. It's a detriment to everybody. Now, I need to put this information out so you can understand. And this is not against anybody. Because what you have to understand, and I need you to go with me, because this is politics. And politics is not fair when people make decisions for you. But they act like they wasn't involved, but they made decisions for you. Don't just believe that Greg Abbott is the only one making decisions for you. See, it's people that hide behind the scenes that make decisions for you. See, when you take this Texas First plan, it's unifying Texans. Notice what I say, unifying Texans behind a plan. When you take the other approach, it's separating Texans from making a unified decision to get Greg Abbott out of office, which benefits us as a whole. I'm trying to lay this out so we can understand. I'm trying to lay it out. Let me do it this way so most people can understand it and maybe they could get on board. Have you ever heard of the name Liz Smith? Probably haven't. You know why? Because she doesn't want to be known. She makes the decisions for the Democratic Party in New York City. She strategizes for the Democratic Party across all the states. Liz Smith is probably one of the most powerful people within the Democratic Party that's out there. She has helped to put more people in office than anybody else. But I want you to listen carefully to what I'm saying. Liz Smith is out of New York City. I'm on board. Hey, I'm with politics now. Now that I understand how politics are played, I want to play by their same rules. I want to give them something that they have to understand. You don't mess with Texas. And the reason why I'm bringing up Liz Smith, see, Liz Smith called down to, and I need you to understand this, Liz Smith called down to the state of Texas, and she just said to hell with whatever kind of plan that y'all got going in Texas. I got a plan that I want to work, and I only need one person to do it. I don't care about y'all rule with Greg Abbott. I really don't. I just need my one person out of the state of Texas so we can change some stuff in Washington. And they do this cherry picking all across the nation, and then they wonder how come people are frustrated with politics. They're frustrated because they own parties that they want to support. Pick people out of there and then give them the titles or tell them when they get there, we're going to put every dollar that we have behind you to make you the person that you should be. And when they put that money behind that person, they don't care what changes because that's where they want to go. It takes a certain type of person to accept that. Long term, if your goal is just one goal, to change what's happening in Washington, you achieve that. But if your goal, if you forget about your other goals to improve the state of Texas, where you live, so you're going to basically, in a sense, vote against your own best interest without getting anything in return. If you go to any major radio show that's out there that's supporting people, that poor people, that's trying to educate you on something, they're telling you, if you're going to give into the narrative, get something in return. And the only way that we get something in return in the state of Texas is to combine Jenna Hinojosa with James Tallarico. Stop letting people on the outside of Texas play politics for us. It gets better when they're grouped together because it helps normal, everyday people. It only gets better for them if they only have to support one candidate. It costs more money. But they're not putting it into the governor's race. They're putting it into one person's race. And I'm not asking them to change their strategy. We as Texas First, we're not asking them to change their strategy, but we're asking them to be inclusive of the governor in Texas. And if you can't understand that part of it, let me tell you what's happening. If you can't go in that booth and vote for James Tallarico and Jenna Hinojosa, what you're doing is voting against your best interest in the state of Texas. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because you're running around here holding up protest signs because one person got killed in Houston. It's making national media news because this person got killed. Well, let me just clarify, because he got murdered by ICE. This is not the first time it's happened. People then got murdered by ICE. But if you continue to let people like Greg Abbott sit in those offices, that's not going to point that out because it makes him look bad. You're voting against your best interest. You're voting against your best interest. I need to get you on board, and this is the last time I'm going to do this because I need you to understand a significance of events that happened that led up to it. See, when your party comes in and selects you and flies you up there and you agree to the terms in which they tell you that they're going to put at all costs, they don't care about who else comes into the picture. See, that's politics. I had to learn that. That's how I got back. Because if you understand, if I can explain politics to you, maybe you can understand the reason why Jenna Hinojosa is more important than James Tallarico to your everyday life. And you can vote them both in and get the results that you want, but you need to be telling people around you or everywhere that we need to vote for both of them. Because at these meetings that they're having, they're trying to pull the black vote back to Tallarico when they don't have to work that hard to do it. Take some of that money and put Jenna Hinojosa and him in the same place and have them explain who wins when she becomes governor. He wins too. His mother, which is a citizen of the state of Texas, wins too. That win has to be sold everywhere. When people come telling you about politics and they want to sell you on Abbott and you want to challenge them, say, wait a minute, Abbott's not running the state of Texas. He's letting Trump tell him what to do. And you can point out facts by saying the redistricting of the map was something that Trump requested. He just jumped as high as he could to do it. Or I don't want to offend nobody, but you know what I'm saying. I realize that he can't jump, but he can hold up his hands and say, yes, sir. In Texas, we're going to do that, sir. We got it. And y'all allow him to do that in the state of Texas. If you don't cast a vote for Jenna Hinojosa, you're voting against your own best interest. That's all I'm trying to get you to say. And I want to put these numbers out because you need to know what it's going to take in Texas to change it to a blue narrative. It's going to take 70% of the vote. It's going to take 70% of the Hispanic vote to come out and get there. It's going to take 90% of the black vote. That means that we all got to come together on one accord and look at that ballot, as Pastor Regan said last night, look at that ballot and know when we strike James Tallarico, we need to be striking Gina Hinojosa, and we need to tell people the reason why we're doing that. We need to, I'm looking at my time because I need to spend some time on something else. But I need you to know about the New York connection with what they did in the state of Texas. I need you to understand who Liz Smith is. I need you to understand Liz Smith, she worked for Pete Buttigieg. She worked for Barack Obama. She worked for Andrew Cuomo. She worked for Clara Mescal. She worked for Elliot Spencer and Bill de Blasio. I want you to recognize those names. She was the influence behind those names succeeding. Nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with that. But she's part of the Democratic Party that's in New York City, that's not in the state of Texas, and I do have a problem with that, because you can't come down here and promote for one person and not take what's better for the people in Texas as a whole. Because what's better is the Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico campaign together. Let me tell you something. You don't have to do the research. I'm gonna do it. Her reputation, she is known for aggressive media strategy, rapid response communication, elevating candidates to national figures. That's key. I want you to remember that. Elevating candidates to national figures. Being extremely plugged into the donor networks that contribute the money here in the state of Texas. And that's what we need to understand. The money comes from Liz Smith that's backing James Tallarico right now. You wonder how come he went from a state representative to a national representative? He went there because people are putting money behind him, and you don't understand the strategy that's behind. If you understand the strategy, it's a national campaign that he ran against. I'm not going to say her name because I'm not going to do her a disservice. But you ran a national campaign against her to get your guy. And that's called politics. I don't have no problem. It was hard for me to get on board, but that's called politics. Well, if you're going to play politics in the state of Texas and tell us who we can and we can't have, and you're going to put money behind your person and say that this is the person, either you get on board or not, what we're telling you as Texans, that's not the case. We want Gina Hinojosa to have just as much reverence as you giving another person in the state of Texas. We want her to have the same back and the same amount of money, and you don't have to spend any more, but what you have to do is combine them as one. And let me tell you, I'm not that smart. I'm not politically smart. But let me ask you a question. And I'm asking my audience this question because, you know, the national campaign should already know this. And this is what I need them to understand. I want to ask, if you get what you want while at the same time helping Texas turn blue, come 2028, if Texas is blue, guess what? It makes your job a lot easier because that's where you can win. Spend the money now, and your goal is for 2028. If you change the governor in Texas to blue, and you get what you want as a senator, because that's all you think that's all you wanted. If you get what you want as a senator at the same time while turning Texas blue and unite the party in Texas, where eventually we might get a couple of state representatives that's blue too. But if we continue to let people tell us how to vote, when to vote, against our best interests in the state of Texas, we will never win. That's the reason why I'm spending time to tell you about who this person is because she won't make the national news. She won't come on commentary show. She doesn't have to because she makes her decisions behind the scene. Elizabeth is one of the most influential Democratic strategies of the last 15 years. Her career expands. See, she wants to sit behind the scene, but I'm going to expose her today. Communication roles for Elliot Spitzer, Claire Mescal, Bill de Blasio, known for aggressive, rapid response strategy. That means if something happens, she is the one that they go to for answers. And that person I told you about, she put a kink in their plan. She put a kink in their plan because they thought this was going to be easy. That's the reason why they handpicked a person out of Texas from somebody that was part of a major plan that was in 2030, and that person went along with them because he knew what they were doing, what they had planned. He knew how they had set him up to be the person coming out of Texas at all costs. At all costs. She took him from being a state representative to a national figure. And that's important because it sacrifices one person along the way. And that's the part that upset me so much that I couldn't come on board with this plan. Because at the sacrifice of this person, you made him come up. I don't have no problem with that. Because you call it politics. Well, this is politics too, but we're going to play it fair politics. You're going to get what you want. And under the Texas First plan, we're going to get what we want. That's called politics, since you put it out there like that. Let me tell you. Now, I want to expose it. I'm not exposing this person. I'm just telling you who they are. She has deep ties in New York donor networks, national Democratic consultant firms, media strategist circles, high-level political operatives. But she don't want to be seen. She don't want to be called out like I'm calling her out right now, because then she's exposed. Think about, and here's where I need to go right now, because I'm laying out some facts today. You can understand them or you don't. You can't understand them. But I'm laying out some facts today that you need to understand. That if we don't get this, we don't get nothing else. Because if the Democratic Party is doing the same thing that the Republican Party is doing, and you can't see it because they're hiding behind the scenes, you need to understand what you're voting for. Because the vote that changes Texas is Gina Hinojosa. And out of all those names let me tell you about her reputation. Extremely connected, known for bold, high-risk media strategies, has access to major donors, national media, political influencers, often works behind the scenes. I told you wasn't going to know unless I brought her name up. Elizabeth, you can do this research. She's out there. She's in Wikipedia. She's in everywhere except the mainstream media where we're getting our information. You never hear nobody talking about it. And I'm going to tell you the reason why you never hear nobody talking about it. Because if you talk about it, don't expect nobody to come out and support your media sources, your media stations, your media, like Black Influence Media, Top 10 Podcasts. They know who she is. But have you ever heard either one of them call her out like I'm doing right now? You know why? Because they're expecting something in return. That's called playing politics at the expense of what you say you're about. In other words, I'm not going to get any money unless I do this. Let me tell you what a behind the scenes person can do to a campaign like her. They can come into Texas, handpick a person, know that he has all the credentials, get their ex-campaign people on board like Barack Obama, and everybody else just step right in and support him. You know, and this is what I want to say. I want to be careful when I say this. And I need you to understand, when people put that much investment into you, they have a right to call in favors. They have a right to call in favors. It may be down the road. They may have you voting against your best interest as a politician. I'm not talking about us as Texans. They may have a politician voting against his best interest because he accepted or she accepted those funds. They may not come calling to after you leave the office because they need to sell a narrative in a place to get a person on board and have people come with them. I need to move. I need to continue moving. Somebody somewhere is going to get this because too many people have their hands in Texas politics that shouldn't be here. But we allow them. Let me break down a little bit more so you can understand. Her role in major campaigns, Pete Buttigieg in 2020, her most famous work, built his national media strategy, turned him into a top-tier candidate. Managed rapid response communication. That means those people that were coming against him, that had any negative information that they was going to put out against him, she handled that and made it go away. Created the Mayor Pete media phenomenon. He was a mayor. She made him into who he was as a national figure. Pete Buttigieg. Andrew Cuomo, a senior communications advisor, helped manage crisis in messaging. If the messaging going wrong, he could change the messaging. He could create an alternative to what's out there. Even though it might be wrong or it might be true, he could change the narrative. Known for aggressive press strategy. That's Andrew Cuomo. Elliot Spitzer, communications aide, worked during the governor national and post-scandal period. Now, I didn't do enough research on Elliot. I can admit that. But I'm going to go back and do some research on him, and I'm not going to bring it out in this format because I need you to, what I'm trying to get you to do is understand who these people are that's behind the scenes outside of the state of Texas that's making these calls into the state of Texas, but they're not giving you what's best for Texas if they're not doing the same thing for Gina Hinojosa. Pete DeBasio, communications advisor, helps shape early messaging. Don't you see one thing that's in common is that they're changing the messaging and they're using people to do it. They're using their political strategy against the state of Texas to do it. It's no different than the Republicans. If Trump is calling out and saying redistricting the map and the governor holds up his hands and say, I'm doing it, and it happened, it's no different. Why would she be involved in Texas strategy? I know that's the next question. She specializes in elevating unknown candidates. Now, here's the truth. I need you to follow this truth. If you don't follow anything else. Tallarico was young. He was relatively unknown nationally. He was charismatic, media friendly. This is exactly the type of candidate that Liz Smith puts into her focus. If you don't believe me, I just called out some names. And if you think about what I'm saying and you put it in your heart of hearts and mindset, how did this happen? Don't think that it happened because of your vote. And here's, I wanted to save this nugget, but I'm going to save it. If someone wanted to introduce Tallarico to big donors, bring him to the national strategy circus, reposition him from governor to senator, build a digital forward campaign. Liz Smith is the one of the few people that could actually do that. And you see it happening right before your eyes at all costs. And what are you getting from it? Unless you get Hinojosa into the governor's office, you're not getting a thing for that effort that she's putting in to one person. Let me tell you something. She works behind the scenes, consulting, flying him to New York City. And then he comes back and corrupts a strategy, a slower moving strategy, and say, no, I'm not doing that. That's not a negative. I need y'all to understand that's politics. Even though he did it, that's politics. Introduces him to big names. That's politics. Not public, not people that they wanted their name associated with him, but people that are in high places. That's politics. Federal level experience that he had never had. If I knew going in that I was going to have this behind me at all costs, I had nothing to worry about. That's politics. But if you don't understand the behind the scene politics, you can't understand the reason why you should demand something in return. I'm not doing this to destroy James Tallarico. I'm telling you as Texans, we should demand something in return. And that return for us as a whole is the governorship by changing over changing Gina Hinojosa to replace Greg Abbott. So if you're going to invest all this stuff behind the scenes in one candidate to get your one person that you felt like met your needs, you need to give us something in return. Don't expect our vote just to fall out because all of a sudden it's, hey, we got our guy. We pushing our guy. We want you to push Gina Hinojosa in the state of Texas too, because we need to get that. I'm black. I'm gonna say it. You can see me, I'm black. But I know that Gina Hinojosa in office could relate to me better than Greg Abbott. I know that even if Ken Paxton gets to the Senate, I know that if Gina Hinojosa is in the office, she's gonna fight for us. And here's the deal. Paxton should never get there if we vote together and vote uniform. In spite of all these people poking their hands in the state of Texas, we need to have something in return. I'm going to tell you, Liz Smith, this is exactly the strategy that she's known for. Identify a race, move candidates into the lane with more donors' interest, get them, the donor, the money to follow them, and then go on a campaign in that state to build that component or whoever they select, because it's not James Tallarico's fault that they chose him. And he's doing exactly what politics are about. I need you to go with me on this because I think that we're getting politics and feelings mixed up. Like me, I'm guilty of that. If you don't believe me, go back to our last show last week on Tuesday and look at that show. I got feelings because I want to protect a certain person in spite of. But even in protecting her, it was a disservice to the state of Texas, and I had to finally realize that if we don't change it, it's not good for everybody. And I'm not saying don't vote for Tallarico anymore, because I understand how politics are playing, but I'm asking you to vote for Jenna Hinojosa and put Jenna Hinojosa in a position of Abbott. The numbers will dictate to you that we're almost there, but it's going to take everybody to make that change and make it happen. I'm about to jump I'm about to jump from Liz Smith. I want to jump to mention a couple of people in the state of Texas. Beto O'Rourke, indirect ties to the same person. Both operated national demographic circles. Both of them operated. Both have work overlapping donor networks in the state of Texas. Both have ego relationships. Both have, let me just, I read that wrong. And I want to be sure that you understand. I'm not, I took my notes, but I can't say it verbatim, but I can get the information out to you. And that's what you need, the information, more than me correcting myself. Both have relationships with national media strategies, no direct public correlation, but they share the same ecosystem. And you say, what, how does Beto O'Rourke fit into this picture? But Beto O'Rourke still has a lot of campaign funds that he can donate and put into place if he sees the right plan in place. If he sees the right way that we're going, he can come in and donate those funds that he's sitting on. Texas First, not to you, not to me, but he can donate them in where they help Gina Hinojosa over the hump. This is another guy, Jarquin, I want to say his name, Jarquin Castro. Indirect ties. Castro is a part of the national media politics. Smith has worked with many national figures, again, in the same ecosystem. I need you to know that, because if you don't know that, and the real reason why I'm looking at my telephone, because some people, they don't have the opportunity to know who these people are. And they hide and they run from media exposure because they do their best work behind the camera. Now, I'm going to call out a name. I haven't called a name all throughout this conversation. Jasmine Crockett. She didn't have those connections. The campaign that Jasmine ran was based on whatever strategy that she put in place. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I need you to vote James Tallarico in place along with Gina Hinojosa. And in reverse order, really, to tell you the truth, we need Gina Hinojosa in the governor's office to make changes in the state of Texas. But we can also give them what they want in return. We can also give them what they want in return. They want him, let them get him. Now, I'm getting to a point where I'm explaining something to you, because this hurt me more than anything. Chuck Rocher. I'm not going to let him hang out. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to challenge him after I get through telling you who he is. Chuck Rocher is a national Latino outreach strategist. Smith is a national media strategist. They both have worked together in insurgent-style campaigns. They operate overlapping national circles. They are not known to work together, but they absolutely know each other. You're asking all the right questions right now. I'm trying to put out the right information. Let's map this out clean and straight. Strategy style, comparison to Liz Smith to Rocher aspect. Let's take that comparison. Media core specialty, media, Liz Smith, media, narrative, rapid response, Chuck Rocher, Latino outreach, field working class messages. Liz Smith, main battlefield, cable news, digital and national press. Chuck Rocher, voter contact, Spanish language media. Typical candidate, young, telegenic, new face. Chuck Rocher, a populist, working class, Latino heavy correlation. Liz Smith, signature move, turns unknowns into national figures. Chuck Rocher, build new Latino turnout where none existed. Liz Smith, risk profile, high risk, high visibility. Chuck Rocher, high effort, turnout focus, and coalition base. Both candidates, both stories and media presence focuses on interviews, viral clips, narrative framing. Chuck Rocher builds a candidate base and turnout. Spanish, politics. Don't they're not doing anything wrong, but you're not seeing this part of them. People are not telling you this part, but they're behind the scenes building up one person at the expense of another person. And that's the reason why people are in Texas are mad. Because even though you build up one person over another person, you have to understand the back procedures that go on. And here's what I want to do. See, before James got out there, it was little plots. You heard me talk about media strategies and stuff like that. And I'm not playing videotapes today. I'm just going to tell you the narrative. James Tallarico's name was mentioned in up-and-coming candidates by Barack Obama during the videotape interview. I'm not tearing down anybody. I'm just telling you facts so you can go out and research it. The reason why James Tallarico's name was mentioned in that interview to kind of do a soft poll of what was going on was because Liz Cook. And that's all I'm gonna say on that, because some people just can't handle the truth. Some people just want to stick their head in the ground when they hear certain people's names mentioned because they don't want to hear the truth. But unless you understand what was going on at that particular time, you can't see the reason why we have to demand that Gina Hinojosa has to be voted into office. If you're willing to give up your vote for a national strategy, if you're willing to give up your vote to get Abbott out of office, you need to know why you're doing that. Abbott is not the governor of Texas if he can't stand up and tell Trump no. Obama fits into the plan because it's tapes out there that's showing you how they used him to build up a certain person. I'm not going to go into that. I'm done. I got to go down here and get you back on board. Chuck Rocher, here's my challenge to you. From what I understand, you live in Texas. And you're very vocal out there in the media. My name is not Liz Smith. And you have access to people. Chuck Rocher, I need you to put the same thing that you put into James Tallarico into Gina Hinojosa. Not as a secondary, but as a person. And I need you to sell the national media Democrats on Gina Hinojosa, because Gina is the one that's going to change the people, going to change the strategy in the state of Texas. And we got 90 days to do this, Chuck Rocher. I don't have access to the same people that you do. But I'm telling you, if you want the black vote, include Gina Hinojosa in your strategy for the next 90 days. I don't care what you did before. I'm going to throw that out the window, just like I'm throwing out my thing where I said I'm not voting for James Tallarico, but I need you and Liz Smith Chuck Rocher, and anybody that you can pull money behind and pull to understand that she is close. And if you want to win in the state of Texas and you want blue, she has to be a part of that picture. We'll come. Stop wasting that money talking about we can have town hall meetings for one person. We'll get with you if we understand the strategy. If they can explain that the governor makes the changes, not the senator. That's what I need. Hey, I'm trying to help y'all here. Because if you get both, guess what happens in 2028? Long term. If you get both, and it's not against your best interest to do it, you're already doing the job. So my plea is to Chuck Rocher, help us in the state of Texas. Help us understand what it means to come together and unify to get Gina Hinojosa in that office. And at best, it gets Greg Abbott out of the office. You bragged on their efforts the day after the election of James Tallarico. You even had on a James Tallarico shirt. Chuck, I'm just asking you to put on a Gina Hinojosa shirt too. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to make it known that Texas is going to come first. Your state. It's going to come first. And in order for your state to come first, you have to put just as much importance in Gina Hinojosa as you are in Tallarico, because with Gina Hinojosa in office, I feel that I'm going to get some changes coming my way that Greg Abbott is never going to share. And it's not hard for you to sell it because ICE is in our state killing people. They're not doing it behind the scenes. They're doing it right on the streets of Houston, in Houston. So Chuck, help us. Help us push Gina Hinojosa into the governor's office. That's all I'm asking. I don't know how y'all do it behind the scenes, but y'all good at what you do. Between you and Liz Smith, we should get Gina Hinojosa as the governor of Texas. He has already shown, and let me share this with you. I know you know this as a strategist. She knows this too, Liz Smith. As a strategist, he has already sold himself for Washington. And our message needs to be strong. Don't mess with Texas. And Texas should come first in any messaging that's coming back to Texas. Do I hold Tallarico or you accountable for anything that's happened to this point? I'm going to say yes. I do. But I'm going to move past it for the bigger picture. I'm going to move past it for the bigger picture because I know that as long as Governor Abbott stays in office, it ain't going to matter to you, people that look like you, or people that look like me. He has one concern on his mind. See, I want to leave you with this. I've been on here for a while, but I want to leave you with this. Let me tell you about politics. See, when it gets close, now he wants to give his people something in return by telling them that these data centers, he's going to start getting them out of there because they're getting negative publicity. So he doesn't want that to carry with him into his political campaign, because that will be one of the questions. But here's what I would challenge you and your group of people to challenge him on this. Since we're the state with the largest data centers here, what's the most dangerous thing of a data center? And you say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. They bring water in, they put chemicals into that water, they cool a cooling system, and then you allow them to take that water back out in whatever forms it's in and put it into our public water system. And then you expect the public to clean up that mess that they made. And that's something that you need to attach to Greg Abbott, because he allowed them to do that. What Gina can say in return is, yeah, you allowed them to do that. That's on you. Don't change at this minute. But you don't have to tell them that they can't come into the state of Texas. That shouldn't be her message. Her message should say that you could come into the state of Texas, but I need you to build just as big a facility as you are bringing that water in, that's going to process that water back out into our local ecosystem clean. Clean. I know I'm just a little old guy here. I shouldn't even be mixed in that type of stuff. But if they set up a big piece of land with air conditioning and cooling system, they need to set up just a bigger piece of land with a cooling system and an infiltration system that puts out the same amount of water that they're taking in back out clean. I ain't got nothing against them setting up data centers, but make them accountable for the actions that they want to put in. If you want to put it in, then you need to go back and grandfather the ones that's doing it. That's already there. And tell them, yeah, you got 5 years to get your system where you pumping in and you clean it up on water coming out. What's wrong with that? All right, I'm gonna keep on going. See, you got to pick your sides. You got to pick your fights in politics. But one of the things that I learned when I was doing this, the reason why I changed my mind, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why I changed my mind, because I heard Roland Martin say this with conviction, and you know how he talks when you see you need to get on board with James Tallarico. I never heard you need to get something in return. And if you get on board with James Tallarico, some of that stuff in Washington can change. He's from the state of Texas. But what is the purpose in sending James Tallarico to Washington if we're going to have the same governorship here in Texas? So when you're asking for something to change, why not tag something onto there that's simple, that's already in place for the next 90 days? Tallarico, Gina Hinojosa. And it should be reversed, because Gina is the one that's going to make changes in the state of Texas. Tallarico can bring stuff back and help Gina build her mission within Texas by getting on board with the changes that she make, but he cannot change nothing. Gina can, on day one, let me go here. On day one of office, nullify everything that Greg Abbott has in place and work on the stuff that she couldn't nullify. When you seen Trump sitting in that office after he got to the president, he started day one. Day one. And you know what we're doing right now? From him doing that, we're fighting all those changes. But what we're finding out is that some of them are still going because they have to go through the Supreme Court that he has. And see, when you look at a long-term picture, I need you to look at a long-term picture, because if we can get both of them in office, things change on the down ballot too. Because not only do we need Gina, but we need to understand that we need to put people in office to support what she's doing. See, it's a difference. It's a difference when the governor has the support to change things, and it's a difference when you see stuff like this. Every last one of these people need to be part of her plan. And you have to understand that when you vote people into office, You need to give her some tools to work with to make those changes, or she's going to be defeated before she ever get a chance. Look at this list. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Well, you understand what we're asking. I don't know how to say it. You see Cullen Allred up there. He's a senator running for office in the state of Texas. We need, if we don't do nothing else, look how fewer people is in this poster. If we can get that correlation of people along with Gina Hinojosa in the governor's office, we change Texas. And I don't think it's too much to ask from people coming into the outside of Texas, trying to change the strategy that we have within Texas to accommodate. Maybe you do. Here's my next challenge, and I'm gonna get out of here on this last one because I don't want to take too much of your time. Here's my next challenge. My next challenge is for everybody that has a media podcast like mine. Stop talking about Tallarico and Gina Hinojosa as two separate entities. Make sure that we talk about them as one. Gina Hinojosa can change Texas. James Tallarico can represent Texas in D.C., but he can't make the changes that we need in Texas. We're asking a lot. We're asking James Tallarico the wrong questions. What we need to be asking is Gina Hinojosa, what changes can you make in the state of Texas? And her answers will be real. If you ask James Tallarico, that's speculative. I want to use a word that's got me tired to him. You're asking him something that he can't change. He can't change it. He can tell you how he feels about it. He can tell you what should go on, but he can't change it. Let me come back to the screen because I'm getting ready to get out of here. He cannot change it. The only person that's able to answer those questions and initiate those changes that you want within the state of Texas is Gina Hinojosa. So if you want to turn Texas blue, I'm asking you to listen to me, act with me, and make sure that Texas first is your priority. And I don't care who picks up this. I don't care who runs with this. Because in the end, if Gina becomes governor of Texas, I'm happy as I can be. I'm happy for my family. I'm happy for future generations. And if you don't think that makes a difference, let me use an example that Pastor Riggins used the other day. See, somewhere during the vote, one of these people in Texas thought they was being smart. They thought they had this plan rigged and ready to go. It's politics. 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 They had a judge that was here in Houston. Wasn't experienced. I don't know if she had ever even attended a Harris County judges meeting. Her name got on the ballot. And because she was a Democrat, and because somebody smart within the state of Texas said that they was going to put Democrats at one location, Republicans at the other location, and not give them the option to vote between the two, which they'd done this cycle too. But guess what? It wasn't like last time, because the only thing I had to go in there and do is vote Democrat all the way down the whole ticket. You know who went into that office? Because they thought they were so smart. They lost a Harris County judge that had been there forever. Now, this new person didn't have the experience, but because they participated in the process, things changed. I don't care what else went afterward. But because they participated in the process, things changed. That's what I'm asking you to do. Participate in the process of Gina Hinojosa being governor of Texas, and things will change. Abbott has already lied. He's already told people that he's for Texas, but he allows people outside of the state of Texas to dictate terms. He has done that. It's on record. It's on record. He can't deny it. He allowed those data centers to set up shop, long as it was benefiting his pocketbook and his voter registration. His voter people, it was good. But now he's discovered that they're doing more harm to the ecosystem within the state of Texas, and he's not making them accountable. What he's doing is saying, hey, we're going to stop this before, this political process comes up. It's getting a lot of attention. It's saying one governor across the U.S. has stopped those data centers from being built. We're not going to let him do that, because it needs to say that, you know what? You are the one that redistricted the map in the state of Texas. You are the one that followed Trump's orders to redistrict. And everything that he has said since then, you got on board with. So we're going to hold you accountable for everything. I'm going to leave you with this. And I'm going to say, thank God, thank God, thank God. But here's what I want. No. Let me clear that up, because I always say this. I want to say, thank God, thank God, thank God. We need Gina Hinojosa. Now, I'm going to tell you the reason why I changed my statement there. When I said thank God, the last one, I say but. So I'm dismissing everything that was before there. When I say that, if I had to change that. I had to change that as a person. That's the reason why I say thank God we need Gina Hinojosa as the governor of Texas. Y'all take care. I enjoyed this time with you. I went over, but some of the stuff needed to be put out so we can do a better job. And come Monday, we're going right back to Gina Hinojosa. We're going right back to this same topic. And I'm going to keep adding to it until somebody picks it up and understand that we need Gina Hinojosa as much as we need James Tallarico. And I need my black people. I know what happened. I know how it happened. But Gina didn't do any of that. That was a New York City plan that came into Texas. So the only way that we hold them accountable for what they did here is to make them spend money. And trust me, the Republican Party is going to have to spend money. And we're going to have to make them spend money here, because they're going to have to keep Texas from turning blue. So make them spend that money by having Gina and James Tallarico at the same time. That's all. I can't say it any clearer. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. And I'm out till next week at Monday. I told you I'm going to be right back here. And Tuesday, we're going to be right back. Wednesday of next week, we're going to be right back, because I cannot let go. I have to. If you're looking at my picture, you see Texas First behind me, that white star. For the next 90 days, that's where I'm at. Every time I come on this air, I'm coming to this particular point right now that I'm sharing with you. Bye. Y'all have a good day. I'm out.